Hello, everybody, and welcome to September's Job Talk. I hope everyone had a wonderful summer. For those that are new to the Job Talk webinar, it's intended to be interactive, so I encourage you to unmute your call at any time and fire any question you have as we walk through this. As I said, the intent is to be interactive. I'm going to talk to you quickly on signs of how an interview went well and what you should look for. But understand that there's no right or wrong answer because every interviewee and every interview is a little bit different. So imperative again, if you have a question, don't hesitate to interrupt and ask as we go along. But welcome again to September's Job Talk webinar on signs your job interview went well and what to do if you feel like it's not. My name again is Matt Peal, one of the partners here at Impact Business Group. We're a specialty staffing firm in IT, engineering, accounting, finance. Again, as I talk through our agenda, what to do different if the interview isn't going your way, what to do after the interview, and what's next. From a QA standpoint, I want to, like I said, field your questions and make sure we make this as interactive as possible. I encourage everyone to get acclimated with Impact Business Group. You can go into our website. Our specialties, IT, engineering, accounting, finance. We certainly do HR, administrative as well. Our intent is to help candidates. It's the reason for these webinars, how to help candidates present themselves in the most positive light and align to the correct opportunities in this market. Locations for us are Grand Rapids and Tampa. Additional information can be found on our website with postings and career advice and career counseling. So I encourage everyone to hit that. To start the webinar, signs that the interview is going well. Typically, hiring managers, as everybody knows, are jammed or sandwiched between meetings, not only internal meetings but external interviews with potential candidates. A great indicator always is if you're with somebody for 30 minutes or longer and they're engaging you with a lot of open-ended questions, obviously that's a great sign that they're interested in you and the interview is going well. So the first parameter is time. If it's 30 minutes or longer, it's a good indication that things are going okay. If the interviewer told you what you would be doing in your new role, meaning are they being assumptive, saying, hey, when you get on board with us or when you start in this particular company or role, this is what you can expect to be doing, as opposed to referring to the job in the third party, saying the ideal candidate will possess these type of skills. They make it more personal and saying, we envision you taking this type of responsibility. Fine. That they're already envisioning you in that position. The interview person introduce you to the other people, not only in the hallways, but walk by another person's desk and make introductions. If they don't feel like you're a good fit, they're not going to waste their time and get you introduced to other people within the organization. Okay, so it's going well if they decide to walk other people in or introduce you to other potential coworkers. Another great sign that this interview is going well. Obviously, the no-brainers, if they invited you back to the second interview. They coordinate a time. They say, hey, can you come in at 9 o'clock on such and such a day? Go with confidence but be prepared for the next interview just like you were the first. But if they invite you back for the second, that's the objective on any interview, to get through those initial screening processes and come back in. Another great sign is if the potential employer is asking you where else you're interviewing or what other opportunities you're considering. They're asking you those type of questions because they want to understand what they're up against, not only from a timing standpoint, but what other companies and opportunities are you pursuing at this time. In essence, it's a game of poker, and they're trying to get an idea how demand you are and how quickly you're ready to make a move in the hiring process. They ask for references. References is a hit or miss type of scenario in today's interview process. There's a pool of people that subscribe to. Nobody's going to give a reference that isn't going to say something positive about a person. There's other people that still put a lot of stock and ownership in those. So be prepared. Bring that reference sheet in. And most importantly, make sure the references that you provide, you've spoken to them recently. Don't provide a reference sheet of folks from 5, 7, 10 years ago. Make sure it's current, make sure it's relevant, and make sure your reference sheet knows, or the references on your sheet know that you're actively looking for a job, so they can be prepared when that call comes in. Obviously, if the interviewer is selling you on the position and the company, you know it's going well. In today's market, the employee isn't the one just fielding the questions. The employee or potential employee needs to ask the questions. The same holds true for the company. They need to sell themselves. Here's the benefits. Here's their culture. Here's the types of people that succeed here. Here's the types of people that fail. They want to give you some intimate understanding of who they are, why this role may align, what the short-term objectives are as well as the long-term. So if the interview is selling you on the position in the company, obviously you know things are going okay. Recruiter, at least from the seat we sit in, our objective is to get feedback for the candidate, good, bad, or indifferent, immediately. It's part of our process with the client. We have a call already scheduled after the interview is over, and you'll want to get that feedback right away. The recruiter should and will tell you what went well, and most importantly, what didn't go well, so you can be prepared for either future interviews or the second interview with that prospective company. Okay? So good, bad, or indifferent, that recruiter should call you back right away and not only share with you the positives, but also the things that you can improve on. Company culture. Again, if as I said before, if that potential employer is talking to you about what they like about the organization, what they do well, they're trying to sell you on you joining their team and their staff. So if they spend time talking through those items, another great indicator that things are going well. The interview invites you to follow up with questions. I encourage everybody as part of our preparation process to come with 3 to 5 questions. Okay, not just generic questions, but true questions about business culture. You know, the SWOT analysis, as I call it, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in that particular industry or that particular company. Make sure you have good questions, at least 2 to 3 that you can ask when afforded that time to talk. If salary was brought up, always a difficult area to talk about. If they're asking you what your current salary is, it's a great indication that they want to evaluate your skills as it pertains to this opening. My best advice in the salary is offer a range. Tell the potential employer what you make today, but give them a target salary range that you're looking for. Don't lock yourself down to a specific amount, because all those things that they were selling you on, company culture, benefits, all factor in at the time of offer when you go to make that decision if you accept or not. A red flag can, however, be if you're currently, or as I said, you recently worked for a competitor, they're fishing for information about their competitors. Be leery of that. Don't disclose too much information if it's a similar industry or competing firm, shall I say, where the organization is you just left. Finally, the great indicator is if the interview takes the next steps. At the end of that interview, he gives you specific, or she gives you specific information about the next steps, when you can expect to hear from them, and what those next steps will look like. This is a sign that you're in consideration. Most importantly, what to do if you feel like the interview isn't going your way. I ask everybody to make sure they're asking open-ended questions to get that discussion back on track. As I said previously, some of those questions to ask to try and get this back into a conversation and get the interview back on track is, what are the biggest challenges for someone stepping into this role? And make sure once that person answers, you're prepared to provide specific examples in your background and how they would align to augmenting those challenges. Next, what types of people succeed in this organization and what types of people fail? Same as in my previous question. As soon as the interview person finishes the response, make sure you're able to tie it back and give specific examples of your background and alignment to how it would succeed in the prospective client's organization. These 2 questions are designed to be open-ended, conversationalist, and hopefully will catapult that interview back on track and turn into a discussion. Interview follow-up. always a question that we see a lot. What should I do at the completion of the interview? Obviously, make sure you thank them for their time and considerations. Express your interest in the role, if in fact you're interested in the role. Send an email or a handwritten thank you note. 3 or 4 sentences max, just reiterating your interest, excitement to move forward in the process, and obviously your availability to meet again. But a follow-up via email or a handwritten note is always encouraged. So with that said, a link to this recording and whatnot will be put on our social media. You can re-access this webinar at any time. But what questions can I try and answer for you folks as it pertains to the interview process and indicators that it's going well, or if the interview's failing, how to get it back on track? Everybody's still on vacation, no questions.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, this is Donna Medwick. I live in Florida. I just had a phone interview at 10 o'clock this morning. The job would be in Tampa. The 2 people that I had a bridge call with, one was in California, the other one was in Spain. They said they would be up here the first week of October, and she told me that, the one in California told me that the next steps would be to go to Tampa and speak to the people who I would be interacting with every day in Tampa. And then after that, the guy in Spain said he still had a few more people to interview. So I wasn't sure if, how to take all this, if they're really interested or just, I don't know, just going to keep interviewing people.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I would encourage you on the follow-up to them, whether it be an email note or a LinkedIn message, because it sounds like there's some geographic challenges here too. But I would send a follow-up and ask them, I'm very interested, and am I in the running or am I in consideration for this particular role? And let them know you're contemplating other opportunities and you're just looking for honest feedback in regards to where you fit in the stack of candidates or where you fit in that process.
Okay, but this went through a staffing firm.
If it went through a staffing firm, then those are the exact questions you want to ask of that recruiter. They should be able to provide you feedback. If your interview is at 10, they should have some type of direction and feedback at this point.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Great. Are there any other questions? One of the questions that came through on the chat is saying, how would you answer this question? Tell me about yourself. And the other question in here is answer the question about an area of improvement or weakness. I'll hit the question about weaknesses or areas of improvement first. What you'll want to tie your weakness to is something that's not job related. Provide a weakness that's not going to be a negative in that hiring manager's mind. For instance, if someone were to say, hey, Matt, what's one of your weaknesses? Organization skills, right? If you ask anybody internally here and you look at my desk, I tend to have paper all over the place. I know where everything's at, but I wouldn't call my organization skills one of my greatest strengths. And that's how I want you to look at answering that question about weaknesses. An improvement item. Maybe you can point to one of your most recent, reviews with your employer, and they outline an area of improvement for you. And just reference that. Hey, during my last review, they said one of the areas that they needed to improve on was, updating the project status report. Again, it's really not a weakness. It's saying, hey, so I left a couple details off on a report, but I'm still meeting objectives. That's how I want you to look at the weakness. The open-ended question, tell me about yourself. As human beings, we should be able to talk about ourselves the most fluid, the easiest, and do so. Give an overview, upbringing, background, maybe give a quick snapshot of what that ideal activity is for you, you know, after hours, a passion in sport or theater or you know, a club or a non-for-profit that you're actively involved with. Those are some of the things you'd want to answer when somebody says, tell me about yourself. Snapshot of where you went to school, you know, area that you grew up, and some of those personal interests that you have. And that should suffice. And don't be hesitant to turn the tables on that person as well and say, tell me about yourself. Tell me about your background. Tell me, you know, what you like best about working here. Tell me what you like least. What would be one thing you would change? Ideally, in the interview process, we want to make sure we're turning the tables back towards them so you get an intimate understanding. Is this the type of company and culture you have interest in working at? What a great question. What other questions can I try and answer for you? Okay. Well, as always, I appreciate your time. As I said, a copy of this will be up on our website. There's no right or wrong answer in the interview process. Everybody's different and unique. So hopefully this will provide some insight and some tips to make that your next interview real successful. Thank you all again.